Hi, I'm Ivanka Sankasari, the founder of MethaneMatters. In our previous videos, we've covered methane emissions, their impact, and ways to mitigate them, but specifically for livestock. In this video, we're going to cover agricultural methane emissions overall and ways to mitigate them. Let's get started. The most common sources of methane emissions include agriculture, natural gas and oil systems, coal mines, landfills, and wetlands and other natural sources. Out of all of these, the number one source of methane emissions is agriculture, which produces around 30 to 40% of global methane emissions. Here are some ways that agriculture produces methane. The first is livestock. Livestock animals, especially ruminants, like sheep, goats, and cows, produce methane as part of enteric fermentation, a digestive process. This happens when microbes in the animal's rumen break down plant material. Manure from livestock can also produce methane when it decomposes. Proper manure management techniques, like composting or anaerobic digestion, can reduce these emissions. If you want to learn more about methane emissions from livestock, check out our previous video. Next is crop production. Rice paddies are a significant source of methane emissions, especially in Asia. This is because rice is grown in flooded fields in anaerobic conditions, which increases the amount of methane-producing bacteria in the soil. Methane is produced because of the anaerobic conditions, or no oxygen. Also, crop residues like straw or stubble can produce methane when they decompose, especially in anaerobic conditions. Some agricultural practices can also increase methane emissions. The use of synthetic fertilizer changes the soil microbes. This can increase the amount of methane-producing bacteria in the soil. This in turn makes the soil produce more methane than normal. Also, tillage and soil disturbance disrupts the soil structure, releasing stored methane into the atmosphere, which causes more methane to be produced overall. And irrigation practices like flooding can increase the amount of methane produced. This is because of the anaerobic conditions, especially in the rice paddies, where it's flooded so there's no oxygen available. Methane is produced by bacteria in these conditions because methane doesn't need oxygen to be produced. There are some regional differences in methane production around the world. Asia is the largest contributor to agricultural methane emissions, mainly because of the rice paddies used for rice cultivation and livestock production. Meanwhile, Europe has relatively lower agricultural methane emissions, mainly because of increased manure management techniques and better agricultural practices. Latin America also has significant methane emissions. This is mostly from livestock production and farming rice. So what are some methane mitigation strategies? Optimizing livestock feed can reduce methane emissions from enteric fermentation. Implementing proper manure management practices, like anaerobic digestion or composting, can also reduce the methane emissions from livestock. For rice farming, sustainable rice cultivation practices such as alternate wetting and drying can reduce the amount of time that the crop spends in anaerobic conditions. This in turn leads to decreased methane production overall. Also, no-till or reduced-till farming practices can reduce soil disturbance, which releases less methane from the soil into the atmosphere. And overall, implementing policies and regulations that help farmers sustain these better practices can help reduce methane emissions globally. That's all for now. Please like, comment, and share the video to help spread awareness about methane emissions. In our next few videos, I'll cover the other sources of methane and other ways to mitigate them. See you next time!